So without any further introduction, I want to introduce Mitch Cole to kick us off for today's inaugural, very first WSSAAA Wednesday, you guys. Thanks for being here. And Mitch, thanks for presenting for us.
Yeah, Cole, thank you very much. And I want to let everybody know, first of all, Jeff Duke was scheduled to be part of this. As the crisis plays out, Jeff got called this morning to be on an administrative call for his university, the University of Central Florida. It's the largest university in the United States, and he teaches the 3D coaching course, which is the most popular course on the campus. And so this is about virtual learning, online learning that they've got to develop. And he was called this morning to a conference meeting at the exact same time we are. So what I'd like to do is introduce how we're going to do this, because it's going to be in like three sections. The first part is Mark's going to go over the 3D framework. And the reason we want to do that is so that you understand the language as we get into the middle part, which is the big picture of culture and your role in leading it. And the last part is the individual impact that you can have. So with that, Mark's going to start out with this. And just so that you're aware that he's one of the three individuals that built this program. He does very little in the United States anymore. It's pretty much international. Explain what's happening. It's all over the world. He was with Russia. I've been with USA Wrestling to Iran multiple times. He's been invited to North Korea for this year, and I've told him that I've been to Iran multiple times. I go there 10 times before I go to North Korea. Then I realized that if he don't make it back, that's one less to split up the inheritance with that's coming up. So then I told him, hey, if God's leading you someplace, you better go. So next year, if we do this and I'm calling you from my cabin up north, you'll know how I got it. So okay. Mark is going to take over from here.
Yeah. Put me in, coach. I'm ready to play. This was Jeff Duke's slot. And when I found out that he might not be able to make it, I had these dreams that I was going to be like Tom Brady coming in for Drew Bledsoe, and he'd never get back in the game again because I'd be so good at this. We'll find out. It's been a joy to be on this journey with 3-dimensional coaching for about 8 years now, as Jeff and Wes and I kind of converged to fill out the framework of what he was doing at University of Central Florida as he did his doctorate on 3-dimensional coaching. And then over time, coaches and administrators started to ask us about certification and course for credit. Mitch will touch on that a little later. And something that we had no idea would take place here in the United States is actually taking place all over the world. We'll get a chance to share a little bit about that as we go. But I'd like to give you just a picture of our framework first so that you understand the language and then have the tools of a visual that first captured me and then allowed me to take what I'd been working on and find a home for something I'd been doing for about 10 years. And this is our picture, the 3 dimensions of coaching, of the individual and coaching, the skill set, the first dimension, the physical. And man, we're glad sport is physical, the nature of it. The second dimension, the mindset, that kind of relationship. Psychology is just really simply the relationship that I have with others and with myself. And then the heart set, the executive center of who we are. And as we unpack this, let's take a look at that first dimension. The fundamentals, the skills, things like strength and speed, power, tactics, technique, cardiovascular, quickness. Those things fall at the first dimension. They define sport, and you better be good at these as a coach. If you're not good at these, you probably won't be coaching that long. And in many ways, the entry into the mind and the heart is through the fundamentals, through the skills, because a player comes to you to be a better basketball player. You better know tactics and technique, a better wrestler, a better football player, a better soccer player, a better tennis player. This is what defines each sport, and they're sport specific. Strength and speed, power, quickness, you train differently in each sport. But each sport has an aspect of each one of these. And what we found is that if you're really good at this, if you really know each one of these in your sport, you can win championships just coaching this. But if this is all you coach, then players become products. People become pawns. They are to be moved around for a specific goal that you have. And if you're really good at this, you can win championships. However, if this is all you coach, inevitably, you will see a trail of damaged relationships because everything becomes transactional. Everything becomes a means to an end. And in Jeff's research many years ago, and I would just say in our own practical experience, what we found is that somewhere between 75 and 85% of coaches are what we call level 1 coaches only, first dimension coaches only. We determine it by simply saying, if you went to a practice for a day, if you went to practice for a week or a season and wrote down everything that you saw being done intentionally, you could find all the intentional things fitting into one of these 8 categories. It doesn't mean that they're not concerned about second or third dimension issues. It means they have no strategies to coach them. And so everything they do is here, first dimension. Again, 75 to 85%. So let's look at the second dimension. The psychology, the mindset, where things like motivation and confidence, emotions, team cohesion and goal setting, they fall at this dimension. This isn't exhaustive of all the things that fall there, but it represents what most coaches have told us that they're struggling with the most, that they need help with. This is where coaches get stuck. How do you motivate the 21st century athlete when it's all about me? When we've created this fixed mindset that looks at things like talent and ability as fixed attributes, intelligence, things that need to be protected, and building, how about building confidence? Confidence, what is it? It's a belief in my skill set. It has 2 parts. Most coaches know how to coach the skill set. They struggle when it's an issue of belief. Motivation, the desire to pursue and persist. Confidence, a belief in my skill set. How about emotions? Sport is probably the most emotional thing that we do, and it's probably what our culture is missing the most right now. That sense of excitement to root for your team, that sense of excitement of getting out on the field and trying something and seeing if it works. I think that's what we miss most right now, is the emotions that come with our thinking about our sport. And emotions are probably where coaches get fried the most and where we probably violate people the most. Go to youth sport and do you ever hear things like, come on, it isn't that bad. Now stop crying. It's not that tough. Toughen up. And then the worst thing you hear as a young boy is something like, be a man, which is always tied to stopping something that you're doing right now. Stop the crying, stop with the emotions. And we do great damage with it. We stuff them, but they'll come out some other way. So how do we help our players learn to process emotions well so that they don't stuff them, so that we aren't dealing with as much of the mental illness and issues that we're seeing today, especially in sport? We need a healthy way to process that. We need to know how to coach them. Team cohesion. How do you make a we out of it when it's all about me? When it's about playing time and position and potential scholarship? How do we bring people together to play well? Team cohesion has 4 parts. Most coaches coach 2 parts of the 4. They have the individual task and the group task. What do you do so that we play well? And what does the team do so that we know our strategies? And if you play your position and we know our strategies, we'll play together as a team. Well, maybe. But what if I don't like my teammates? There's the issue of individual relationships and group relationships that are also essential for real team cohesion. And we have strategies to help coaches to deal with that. And then, of course, goal setting. But let's look at the third dimension, the heart, that executive center of who we are, where things like value, worth, identity, character, significance are formed. These are heart issues, or the spirit, or the will, where they're kind of individually changeable. The spirit is its form, the will is its function, the heart is its center, but these fall there. And what we know about sport is this: it is affecting this dimension. It is having a significant effect. Issues of performance-based identity, when what I do becomes who I am. Well, what happens when I can't do what I do anymore? Who am I? How many gold medals are enough to affirm your identity? And there is a number. The number is one more. It's always one more. Michael Phelps had 23 gold medals. Was it enough? If you know his story, you know he's come through some significant emotional identity and character and worth issues. And the beauty is he's coming through those. But if what I do becomes who I am, then we have real identity issues. How about our character? Does sport build character? We've all said it, and I believe it. But there's two categories of character: performance character and moral character. Performance governs myself, and moral governs relationships. And sport builds performance character, things like dedication, sacrifice, teamwork, those things. But what about that other category, moral character? And the research is pretty definitive here, that the longer you're in competitive sports, especially team sports, the less you make good moral decisions. The Hams-Beller Athlete Moral Reasoning Inventory, the Josephson Institute, it's pretty definitive that sport left to itself erodes moral character. The reason why is when winning becomes most important, moral character has to submit to winning. Whatever's most important forces everything else to submit to it. And moral character says to winning, you can be very important, you just can't be most important, because cheating can help me win. But cheating is unkind, unloving, and unjust. Sport left to itself erodes it. Here's what we also know. Sport is a great place to build moral character, but it will not happen unless a coach coaches it. And we want to help coaches to coach in all three dimensions, because people are three-dimensional beings. By the way, to not coach in all three dimensions is by definition to not get the best out of your players. If you want the best, you develop them in all dimensions. And then one other thing we say is this: don't be a tour guide to a land you haven't been to. If you're going to deal with the hearts of players as a coach and then even as an administrator, it's your heart that gets worked on first. So we have a journey of discovery for coaches that can lead to a transformation of their coaching and on their team. That's the framework.
Mark, thanks. That's the basis of what we're going to talk about today. But what I want to touch base on from here is what we had sent out: leading culture in an opportunity of crisis. That's where we're at. But first of all, I want to start, what is culture? I'm going to spend a lot of time because it's not easy to define. And if I asked you, what's the culture of sport at your school, it might be difficult for you to explain it. Right? And here's the thing. What I want to point out, we're going back to our coaches course. In our coaches course, the basis of it is to help people, first of all, determine their purpose to coach. We don't tell them how to coach. Same thing here. We're not interested in telling you what's right or wrong in an athletic department. Our role is simply to help coaches and ADs do what you do better. That's what we want to provide. Now, if I'd like to take a survey, it'd be interesting. How many of us on this call, and I say us, were ever educated in how to lead culture? And yet that's what the most important thing we can do. And the thing I want to do is, first of all, is help you understand, and maybe you already do, how important you are to culture for your school. And if you don't, in the next few minutes, I'd like to clarify it. But first, there's 3 ways to build culture. You can build it organically, intentionally, and forcefully. This is organic culture. You get what you get. It's the number 1 way culture is built in society and in sport. See, this isn't led. This is, hey, we come in and we say, man, the culture on the wrestling team is really bad, but the softball team is great. Here's the thing. You can have great culture, and this is what I've heard. I heard, man, I had this group in 1986, literally, that was great. They were fantastic. And I don't know why these guys right now can't be like them. Well, I can tell you why. And what you're saying is I'm not leading it. And what happens here? This has to be taken care of, weeded, it's got to be fertilized, it's got to be watered. You don't do anything here. Right? And if you're not doing anything, what's going to happen? Weeds will take over for all of it. Right? And it's not only within a sport. I was working with a coach this past year, and she goes, Mitch, let's work on some stuff for team cohesion, because I know that the culture on the volleyball team is going to impact my softball team. Because I got girls telling me I don't know if I want to come out because these girls are on that team. I don't want to go through this again. See, here's the thing with this. Whether you lead culture or allow it, you're responsible for it. Here's the second way you can build it. Intentional culture, or another term is architected. It's planned. Now, I'm going to start out something to begin with. Just because it's intentional doesn't mean it's great culture. I'm going to give you an example where I was part of an intentional culture. It was one based on fear and intimidation so that people could stay in power. But for what our language is, what we're talking about going forward, intentional culture is a positive one. It's a culture in sport that students want to be a part of that'll impact lives. That's the way we want this to be framed for intentional culture. If Jeff was on, he would have told you about the culture at Edgewater High School that his son's involved with, that has not only impacted the football team, it's impacting the entire school. And I'll give you, when you get a chance at the end, I'm going to give you our link. You go to the administrator's part of it, and there are short 2-minute videos there. One from the principal and one from a parent. The parent, how it has impacted her child's life and the whole team, and the principal, how is it saying how this is changing our school. But this is an example of intentional culture led by, at UW-Whitewater, led by this guy, Kevin Bullis. The UW-Whitewater's football program was in the championship game this past year in Division III, led by this person. The culture at that school around football is built off of a story that he told me, that when athletes and parents come in to be recruited, and they're going to a football game, and he's talking to them, the last thing he talks to them about is he says, now when you go out to watch that game, I don't want you watching the game. I want you to watch the interaction between our coaches and our players. Because we will be demanding of our players, we'd be demanding of your son. but we will never be demeaning. So I went to the sideline of the game. I've been to practices. Everything that I've seen is built around that culture. The toughest thing that he has to do, he's told me, they lost that championship game. That's nowhere near as tough as the last week of August when he's got to cut the team down to the 100-person roster limit. And after 3 weeks of practice, he has players 101 to 120 who make no difference on whether they win or not. He's got to tell those young men that they can't be part of this team. He told me that's tougher than the loss of that game. I know what kind of culture that is, but there's a third culture. I said forcefully, the reality is that culture is built on what we're going through right now, crisis. There's no better way to understand what is crisis than you go to the Chinese character. That is the character right there for crisis. Now, roughly translated, that's made up of two characters: danger, opportunity. We know the danger. What's the opportunity right now? February 12th, 2013, I'm the national teams director at USA Wrestling, overseeing our Olympic effort. Basically, I'm you. I was an athletic director for Olympic sport. And that day, the International Olympic Committee's executive committee voted to drop wrestling from the Olympic Games in 2020. I don't know, maybe for you, but that was crisis for us. What did it do to culture? It changed it immediately. See, instead of all of the countries all around the world, Russia, the United States, Iran, Cuba, Azerbaijan, whatever, we're fighting each other for a limited amount of medals. It all of a sudden went to, we're working together to keep the dreams of millions alive. They're partners now. What did we do? Well, I'm going to admit on this that we colluded with the Russians to impact an election. I don't know if you've heard anything like that outside, but we did. We got with them and did a coup because we had to get rid of the president of our federation. He was an arrogant bully. And I use those words so I don't get bullied. And we did a coup, and by a vote of 11 to 10, got that guy eliminated, got rid of him. Had we not done that, we had no chance. But here's what else happened. Japan got 1 million signatures to keep wrestling in the Olympic Games. We did a international competition. Before Iran, when we were in Iran, the president of their country, Ahmadinejad. Now I remember his name because it rhymes with Chaim Nutjob, which is what he is. Right? He handed out the awards at the World Cup. We had an international competition, 3 teams, in Grand Central Station with the weigh-ins at the UN and the press conference at the UN building. That competition was between the Russians, the Iranians, and the Americans. Name a point in history of those countries that they've ever worked together for a common purpose. The last thing is that we worked with the Greek Federation, and we had an international competition. The Greek government approved to have one on the ancient Olympic grounds. And Helen Maroulis, who was a gold medal for the United States in 2016, who is of Greek heritage. Helen Maroulis may have been the first female in world history to compete on those grounds. In fact, this thing right here is gravel from Olympia, Greece, where they went and competed. Who else has competed on that over history? See, I tell that for 2 reasons. One is it shows what can happen in crisis. The other reason is look at the power of sport. And who holds the keys? Coaches do. Okay. But if we're going to understand the opportunity today, because look at the opportunity that came about to us with this crisis. Okay. Now, culture through crisis, that a lot of times is a good thing. It'll never be comfortable. all of us said we were glad we went through it, never want to do it again. That's what you normally hear. But before we touch base on the opportunity we have today, we need to talk about the importance of you as an athletic director. We need to understand how the influence that you have. First, we got to decide who we are. See, I take this, what I call this picture is, I use the title of my favorite TV show. This is us. Now, in a few more days, my favorite TV show might be Tiger King, when I get through all of those episodes, if you guys have seen it. But I don't want to use that as the title. But guys, this is us. And I'll give you a few seconds here, but the only thing on this picture that makes it not updated is what? There's only a couple of things. This phone cord, that BlackBerry, okay? Otherwise, that might as well be our office today. We're all with these things on right now. There are no more phone calls because I can now work with both hands. He can only do one. This is what we have to do. This is part of it. Are we an athletic director, an administrator, that is minister, putting things into people, director, directing, or are we managing? Now, we have to manage. I don't want to downplay that. That's like the first dimension in our pyramid. We better get this done or it ain't going to matter what we do. There's no fulfillment in that. It's just what we have to. And the other thing with this is, here's what it is. That takes over. We go from one problem to another, and it takes over the day. What we call that, in a way, is it's the tyranny of the urgent that crowds out the important. And what's important? What's the most important thing we do? There's nothing more important you do than to lead and manage culture. There isn't anything. If you don't lead culture, it's going to manage you. Is this what I was this? And I know what that feels like. And in fact, I think I was a national teams manager more often than I care to admit. You gotta get, but we have to be focused on leading. And right now, if we understand what we have right now, we've got a gift. We've been given a gift. Right? Here's a gift. I'd love to give that to you. But it's not a gift until what? Until what? Until you take it. Here's the thing, right now, if time's not available for you yet, it will be shortly. Because all this paperwork here is going to get taken care of. And because of what we're going through, you're not going to have much more. So what are we going to do with it? And if you're going to have time, what about coaches? What about coaches? Here's the thing that I talked with Cole the other day, is if you think about this, right now, there may not be a coach in any sport, in high school, college, or the professionals, that will be holding an in-person team practice today in the United States. That's a crisis. Some of us may even call it apocalyptic, okay? But there's going to be time. So what are we going to do with it? And here's the other thing. As sports get delayed longer, and for most of us, as I talk to ADs, likely canceled for the spring, you've got the other gift. Here's what we've got. Time and money for professional learning. Because we've got the ability to take a look at that travel and referees and umpires and maintenance, all of these things that we would be spending money on. Hey, let's reallocate it for professional development. We've got the time and the resource. That's the gift. That doesn't mean we can't do it later. If it's important enough to us, we can plan it, but let's take advantage of the gift. Now, certainly what we want you to do is use the three-dimensional coaching. But if there's other stuff out there that's going to work in professional development beyond the X's and O's of sport, because that's not where we struggle, then we want to encourage you to use it wisely and do that. Well, why is this so important? We got to show you how important are you. Let's be clear how important you are. Here's the thing. Here's my statement to decision makers, the principals and superintendents that I get a chance to meet. This is almost always my first statement. Your coaches are the greatest asset you have in education today, and likely the least trained in the areas they can have the greatest impact. I haven't had yet in 2 years anybody disagree with that. And I wish they would at times, because I'll pull the research out. Okay. Former Secretary of Education, not of sport, of education in the United States, Arnie Duncan, has said, I can make a case the most important educators are coaches, and what most consider extracurricular is absolutely vital. So what are we going to do with that? What we're going to do that is this: if those statements are true, and I believe them wholeheartedly, and I've had nobody challenge, then by the transitive property of math, athletic directors are the most influential people in education today. And how many of us think of ourselves as the most influential person in education? That's what we are. But how do we do that? See, how do we do that? How do we have that kind of impact? Because if we do this right, we get culture and sport right, I can show you how you can change the school overnight. We can't do that until culture is right in sport. To do that, have intentional culture, that requires a community of coaches, not individuals, a community. How do you get to a community? A community requires shared language and common purpose. Go to another country, if you don't speak their language, see if you feel like you're part of the community. Because if you don't even speak their language, we can't even understand the customs or what to be part of this community is. Yet that requires a baseline of knowledge. We have to have a certain level of knowledge that we can all be part of to move forward, and that this is education. In what we provided, the 3D coaching certification course and the resources we provide for ADs is the backbone of the education that creates a baseline of knowledge that now we have a shared language and a common purpose to be a community, to lead intentional culture, impact the entire school. Got the stories to show it. And the great part is next year when 5 new coaches come in, we provide them the education through the 3D coaching course so they can be part of that community that will continue to lead educational, the intentional culture. Now we've got something that's sustainable. Mark's going to take over from this point here. I wanted to show, we've talked about the big picture. How do we make things happen? This next slide to me was my aha moment.
Math. It's aha because he really wasn't that good at math. When we were in 5th grade, we switched classes on April Fool's Day. We got away. That is today, in 5th grade. And he almost blew our cover because he got a math problem wrong. And I never got math wrong. So, but we made it through till lunch when one of the teachers heard a couple of girls telling each other we switched. So we had to go back. But this really is this comes from the business world, the formula for change. Change is discontent times vision times first steps greater than resistance. Because change is work. It requires movement. And I won't change unless I'm discontent with something. We talk about that emotionally as a positive emotion that harms performance is contentment. If I'm fine with it, then I'm not going to do the work required in change. So there's got to be a level of discontent. It's not hard to find discontent in the sports world. There's some things that are fundamentally broken. Discontent is essential, but it's not enough. Then it requires a vision, and a vision is a picture of the future that creates passion in the hearts of people. It is a vision is a picture of what it looks like to solve the problem that you're discontent with. And you are the person that carries the vision. You need to cast the vision. It's powerful, but it's not durable. It doesn't stick. You've got to come back to it all the time. and make it something that that stirs in the hearts of people that they want to be a part of. Then I've got a vision, I'm discontent, I see what I want, but if I don't know what to do next, my first steps, nothing happens. You've got to know what to do next. It's not enough to know just what to do next, but it requires a plan. But the plan has to have a first step. You got to be a little careful that your first step isn't a false start, because it requires a plan. But a lot of plans, I don't know how to make that step. And then in the end, it's got to be greater than resistance. And resistance is always about people. It's really the question, who can stop this from happening, who can let it happen, and who can make it happen. So you identify those people. And really what you want to identify first are the key players that will help you make this happen. Simon Sinek does a really good short presentation on what's called the law of diffusion. And if you have a bell curve, the diffusion is the spread of it. And he talks about when you want to make a change, identify that first quarter of the bell curve. It's about 17% of the people. It's your innovators and early adopters. And you work with them because they're looking to do something new and better. That's where your focus is on. You don't focus on the far end of the people that might stop it. You identify those that are necessary to create the momentum. They're the ones that you've put your energy and time into. And we have a category for those people, the ambassadors. Then you move down and you will find resistance doesn't really become the issue. Now, I do say that you need to identify that person like your administrator, your principal, because you don't want that person stopping it. I can't imagine they would, but you want to involve them in the process. Discontent, what's broken? Vision, how do I fix that? What is that preferred future that will stir in the hearts of people that I can cast? And the more simply you can say it, the more powerful it is. Let me tell you one that came to mind for me, and I still remember it. I don't know if the plan was right, but I remember this: no child left behind. What a powerful vision. We don't want to leave anybody behind. No child left behind. It captured my imagination. Now, I wasn't part of the steps, but I'll tell you what I would have liked to have been. Discontent, what's broken? Vision, what does it look like when I fix it? And how do I cast that so everybody would want to be a part of it? And first steps, okay, what do I do to get the momentum going? And then resistance. Who can stop it from happening? Who can let it happen? Who can make it happen? I process all of these changes that I'm looking at now through that lens and try to identify, can I state the broken things that I see? Can I talk about the vision of the transforming sport through the Transform Coach, where all kids are valued and all have worth? Okay, what do I do next to create the momentum necessary? And then how do I get people aligned with this so that we can create a community that wants to be a part of this? That's the formula. Let me just touch on now from that, how do I create impact and where do you fit? This is what we call the impact triangle. I helped process this with a guy in a pub in Germany when we drew this up, and he was sharing with me about the difference between culture and society. When we say that we understand culture, or if I went and saw your practice, saw how your school and your sports program operated, really, I'm not understanding culture. What I'm really understanding is society. Society is how things are. Culture is how things grow. Agriculture, horticulture. What are the things necessary for something to grow? And you've got to be in the culture to do that. But here are the things that are necessary. The first is information. When you have information, information leads to what? It leads to knowledge. When I have information, then the right information gives me knowledge for a situation. Then experience. Experience is what drives wisdom. When I do some things and then I see what happens and I learn from those, that should give me wisdom. But it's influence that drives culture. And you have to be in the culture to influence the culture. What we can do with three-dimensional coaching is we can bring information that'll give you knowledge. We can bring experience that will help give you wisdom. But only you who have the power in the culture can drive it. We are right now in a great example of that. We are learning more about COVID-19. We're trying to find out how it works. We're gaining some knowledge. We need more. Also, we are looking to other countries like China, like Korea, to learn from their experience to give us wisdom. But the information and the wisdom will not change American culture. Only people in seats of power to drive that culture. They've got to be in it. We gain knowledge, we gain wisdom, but you got to be in the culture. It's our governor, it's our president, it's our governors that are driving the changes in our behavior in the culture right now. How long that will last because it's being forced, it will be interesting to see what has fundamentally changed from this. But that's how you work in a culture. We bring information. We bring experience. We give knowledge and wisdom from what we've learned. But what we've learned is that you, as the administrator in the culture, drive the culture to create the environment for things to intentionally grow. That's the impact. That's what we can bring. That's what you can do.
So how do we do it? How do we get to a sustainable operating system instead of a program? Is individually, people have impact, but only corporately, only as a community can you create an operating system to have culture. Impact is great. I'm not downplaying the impact, but individually, we can't lead culture. We got to do it together. So what does that require? How do we go from a program that has impact to an operating system that has culture? Whether it's you use 3D coaching or not, this is what needs to be provided. First of all, accessibility. Is the education accessible and available? There's a difference. If it's all driven by workshops, then it's only available to the people that show up and only the people that are in it, and that's a program. They'll have some impact. Is there leadership support? Are there some, do they have support provided for you as a leader? Because you cannot. This is about you educating coaches. We all know we can't do it. There's too many of them. We don't have the time. We have to lead, not be the teacher all the time. So is there support for somebody to lead this? Is there an onboarding process? This is huge. If it's about each year we're going to have a workshop, holy smokes, it's only good for the people that show up. And then if you don't get it, how do I get on board? What's the process to bring the next person on to continue? New leadership. When somebody else comes in new, because you're not going to be the AD all the time. What I'm hoping is that when we're part of the thing that changes athletic directorship into something like this, nationally, on average, there's a 20% turnover. If we've got a turnover like that, there better be leadership training. But if we can do something to change what this job is, man, then we don't have to do as much leadership training, new leadership training. But is there something while this culture is going that you can train somebody to continue it? And then one is it set up for ongoing education? Here's the great thing about that we say about if you're going to take the 3-dimensional coaching course to a coach, they complete the course. Our statement is congratulations, you've completed the beginning. This isn't a sprint, it's not a marathon, because both of those have finish lines. This is a journey. And how does the other resources fit in? Inside Out Coaching, Positive Coaching Alliance, Proactive Coaching, other people, Simon Sinek, Carol Dweck, they all have great tools. They're great tools. But man, when you've got a framework, you can learn how to use those tools better because you know where they fit. And then if it comes down to, if you got something that provides it, it just comes down to this. It comes down to that cost, quality, and convenience. Which one is got the best? Now, I wanted to give you, when we got near the end here, I wanted to give you an example of opportunity and crisis. Somebody that is doing something like this, and what can 5 minutes in a stamp get you is the title of it. And I wanted to be current. You can't get more current than an AD telling me this yesterday. I was talking to this AD who had come to our summit that we had for athletic directors in Orlando, a 1.5-day summit that we went over the 3D framework and how to build culture around it, sustain it. And when we were there, we gave him this. We gave him this card. It's for the coaches course. And we asked him, give it to a coach. But what he did was he gave it to his young volleyball coach. He asked her to help him with the effort and getting buy-in, to be one of the ambassadors. He told me she cried when he did it because she understood, he valued her. It showed how much he valued her. Well, they were, last week, when we're all in this situation, what can I do? And they were talking about this as she's going through the course. And what she did was this. She took one of our tools and she sent a note. She wrote a little card, a stamp, and sent it to every girl on the team. The AD sent me a picture of that. There's the card. You don't have time to read it. You don't need it, but I want you to see what's at the bottom because of what she did. That was posted by a girl on social media. And what it says on the bottom: best coach ever. 5 minutes and a stamp. Guys, this is why we do it. This is why I'm part of this. This is the impact. But who's the hero here? Who's the hero in this? It's the AD. See, the AD took this gift and he gave it to her and she valued her. She took this and sent it out, and look what the girl posted. Who do you think feels the best? The AD, the coach, or the athlete? Guys, the reality is, this isn't an or question. D, all of the above. But I could make the case that it's the AD. That's like being the father and seeing what's happened. It's passing this to the next generation. Do you think she's going to get more out of that athlete the rest of her career? There's no doubt about it. This is about performance too. So as we close in this, what do we have to offer with this? And this is like off of the website, and you go to administrators. When you do that, click. I want you to go there and click that so that you can see what those people are saying. I got my brother laughing already.
Come on, that picture from back in 1980s. Hey. Stop it.
Wait. We'll get to that. This is the website, but here's what we offer. The administrator's course for free. The 3D coaching certification course. Guys, in Washington, this has got CEU approval from the state. It's worth 10 clock hours and 10 TP hours. Right there is enough to go to my administrator and say, this should be paid out of professional development, not all my athletic department. The whole state recognizes its value. We've got an Attaining Alignment Between Coaches and Parents course. It's a 2-hour course that we just released in February. I don't know what the sport is or their relationship with parents are at your school, but 58% of high school coaches have considered quitting because of parents. That's broken. Here's how we can help fix it. And the Shaping Culture course using the 3D framework. This is what's great for administrators, for everybody, but for administrators, how you build culture. And we'll do workshops. And George is on the call. He's our regional representative in that area. I use both of these pictures are current pictures, okay? One may be a little more current than the other. And yeah, you look at me now, I dye my beard and my hair gray, right? So that's the issue. Right? Besides, I put this whole thing together. I can use any picture I want. Right? As one of my friends that I used to compete against was a bodybuilder, and we did a big special thing for our 1980 Olympic team. I lost to him in the final match to be on the Olympic team in 1980. We didn't go anyplace. He's a bodybuilder, so we put a little picture of everybody in the big picture that we created, and in it it's his picture of him bodybuilding. His wife said, I'll never forget. His wife goes, Mark, how long are you going to use that picture? And his response, till I die. Okay? So there, right? But here's what the last one, here's what we want to provide. Here's what this is about, and I hope we'll send this out. We've created a link. If you want to get additional information about three-dimensional coaching or whatever, there's a very brief, about 30-second form we'll have there that you can complete. And when you do that, what we're going to do is we're going to send you an automated kind of response with a coupon code for you to get free access to the Shaping Culture using the 3D framework. That's it's normally a $45 course. Everybody that's on this thing said you can have free access. And if you're an athletic administrator, you'll get a response that will give you a code that's good for 7 days to use the code to get the course. Once you have the course, you can have it, you've got it in your account. The other thing we'll do is we'll send you a direct link for the free administrators course so that you can go through what we have to provide for administrators. And once you go through that course, that's about 2 hours, or hour and a half probably. Because if you want to take the 3D coaching certification course, we'll provide that to you as well. We want you to see what this is. Guys, and I know the impact. I got the best job within three-dimensional coaching because I get the stories. I get the two. In fact, we're working on, I've got a thing I'm putting together for administrators that are playing, that are doing, are running the play. I'm sending out resources. Russ Waterman, who's on this, I sent it to him yesterday. And Nicole, with regard to some videos that we can use, some TED Talks that you can use for your virtual practice. Because as we all know right now, virtual practice in the first dimension sucks. Okay, it's the best word I can come up with. But for second and third dimension issues, it's a tool. And let's learn how to use it. I thank you for giving Mark and I the opportunity. I guess the only thing you're going to have to do now to get Jeff is have him out at the convention. And he doesn't miss this stuff. So you knew what happened, and we all understand. But Cole, I want to thank you for giving us the opportunity in this brief time to talk to the people who've got more impact in society than I believe anybody else has in education. And I want to thank you guys, and I hope that we can be a resource. And if not us, then please consider doing something now. Take advantage of the gift you've been given to do some professional development for your coaches and yourself. And like I've told some guys, maybe you're not prepared, but if you're going to have money left over, just get the license and we'll spend time with you. We're working on the next tool. We're working on webinars or Zoom calls for athletic directors, because Mark talked about how important vision is. Heck, we've got 45-minute presentation on how you make vision stick, because that's your biggest responsibility in leading culture. So thank you, and Cole and Mark, I don't know if you have anything, but I appreciate, guys. We'll hang around as long as if you have questions, we'll be here. We're quarantined, okay? We're not going any place in Wisconsin until the 24th.
Awesome, Mitch. Thank you so much for taking your time to present to us today. You guys, as Mitch just said, if there's questions, comments that you guys want to make, jump on here right now. I think it's probably still better to go through the chat room so that not everybody's trying to jump on at the same time. But Mitch and Mark, do you guys have access to the chat room right now?
I do. Yeah, we do.
Perfect. If you guys have questions for these guys, please jump on and drop a comment right now, and they